Mark, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So just looking back at that announcement yesterday, that split between the federal and the state government for business support, what did you make of it?
Well, it was a good response. At least it shows that both the Premier and it was great to see the Prime Minister leaning into this, that both parts of government are actually acting together to help our small businesses. That small businesses put their cry out last week or on the weekend. And this is, at first blush, it's a very good outcome to kick things off. Of course, you can never satisfy all interests, and we're not. This is not a package that's going to fix everything, but we have to make sure anything that falls out of the net, that they come and pick these things up and we sort these things out in the future.
So as it stands at the moment, it's a band-aid solution.
Yeah, it's a rescue package. It's not a recovery package. It's a rescue package. So they're trying to rescue today what's going to occur over the maybe next month and what's already occurred. So with all rescue packages, you know, in a quick response, you don't expect it to be fixing everything. It's not going to fix everything. But things like, you know, be able to increase a sole trader up to $1,000 worth of cash injected into his or her business. Being able to make sure that employees can get, if they lose up to 20 hours, can get up to $600 a week. To make sure that landlords are now going to look more favourably to their tenants by giving landlords a land tax rebate to the extent they say to the tenant, their commercial tenant, you don't have to pay rent. Those sorts of things are really, really important. And the $10,000 cash, or up to $10,000 cash once-off payment to businesses is also pretty important too. But I have to say this, Peter, it's not going to fix everyone, so they have to be paying attention, and small business still needs to get a seat at the table to make sure, outside of the rescue, the recovery period, the recovery process, the recovery is adequate.
You are a champion of small business, no doubt about that, Mark, but what more would you like to see? Where have they come short here?
Well, I'm not sure whether they've come short yet because it's only got announced. We've got to see what the fallout is and what falls out of that. Most importantly, we're going to make sure that there is a quick response. So if someone makes an application, and it's pretty complicated, you know, you've got to talk to your accountant or somebody, but if someone makes an application and they don't get paid quickly, that's an issue. So quick response time is very, very important. I saw Berejiklian yesterday say that they've got those responses down pat now. We'll see how that goes. But I think from now on, both the Premier, and I'd like to see the Prime Minister involved in this, and I'm sure he would do this, to make sure that they get representatives out of southwest Sydney, representatives out of Newcastle, Gosford, Wollongong, etc., all throughout New South Wales, all those places that are affected by this, particularly places like Fairfield, for example, right now, southwestern Sydney, representatives to the table to say, okay guys, how do we make sure that small businesses in your communities will survive this for the next 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, because the recovery period after these lockdowns is not one day, not 6 months, it's years. And we're going to make sure that doesn't happen because we don't want anybody to suffer unnecessarily.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point to make. Well, as soon as this lockdown ends, then this financial help will stop. But businesses won't receive that income straight away. It could take days, it could take weeks, you know, it might even take years. So does there need to be some kind of ongoing federal or state support?
Well, the question is the right thing to ask. That's the question. And if there is something ongoing that is required, how much is it and who does it go to? We don't want to go to the multinationals. We don't want to go to the big national organisations who make hundreds of millions of dollars a year. We want to make sure that this money goes to the small business community, the fabric of Australia. We want it to go to the small business community. So we need to ask the question, and it's not for politicians, to be frank, to sit there and give the answer. You have to get the small business representatives to the table and ask them the question and make sure that everybody is within the net. Don't miss out on anyone. Just like COVID, no one person should die from the COVID problem, from the COVID virus. Equally, no one small business should die because of the effects of lockdowns as a result of COVID. So let's have the same energy going towards making sure the small businesses don't die off. No one person's lifetime of effort should go out the door because of this.
Yeah, you've recently said, Mark, that politicians should take a pay cut. Do you still think that way?
Well, I'm not saying the politicians should take a pay cut. Politicians should offer to take a pay cut. And I said the first politician to put his or her hand up to do that will look like, as I said the other day, will look like they just jumped off the cross, because it is about being together. See, I'm saying, and I keep hearing this, let's do this together. We're in this together. I hear the politicians say this. Well, the small business community is saying, let's do this together. Let's see what you give up. What are you prepared to give up? Now, they're giving us a lot of money. They've just thrown cash at it. That's great. But where have they really sat down and said, we're in this together with you, and by the way, we feel what you feel, and we'll take a pay cut for the next 4 weeks? I mean, they did it in New Zealand. Ardern did it in New Zealand. They took a 20% pay cut across the board there, and they only did it for the period of the lockdown. I'm talking about sort of acknowledgement. That's probably the most important thing here. Small business owners want to see acknowledgement. Just acknowledge it, even if you don't take the pay cut. Acknowledge, yeah, I'm getting paid full whack, you're not. Acknowledgement is what we're talking about here. And it makes a big difference to people, just the acknowledgement.
As things stand at the moment, Mark, how clear is the roadmap out of this?
Well, I don't think there is a roadmap out of this. You're talking about the economic roadmap? If you're talking about the economic roadmap, there is no economic roadmap. I mean, the PM put out a health roadmap, and how that we'll get into, travelling and all those other sorts of things. And it all, of course, relies heavily on vaccinations. And there are areas outside of my pay. I don't understand that sort of stuff. That's a scientific issue. But when it comes to the economic roadmap, there is no economic roadmap just yet. And I think it's this whole New South Wales issue has caught us on the hop. I think everybody thought we were sweet and we were past the COVID environment, the COVID virus. Now we've been caught on the hop again. We do need to develop an economic roadmap. And about 4 or 5 weeks ago, things were looking pretty cool, pretty good. I mean, the property market was on fire, etc. And everybody was just starting to come back. Now we've been hit on the chin again. So now we must sit down and work out the roadmap. And I know that parts of the federal government, at least, are talking to various other people, including myself, about what does that roadmap look like. So those conversations are starting, but really we only really started talking about it on the weekend. But this roadmap needs to be done quickly, because we need to give confidence back to the business owners. What we're saying to business owners is, please hang in there, just hang in there, trust us. Well, here's some money, but trust us, hang in there. Well, to give people confidence to hang in there, you've got to tell them there is a plan. And you've got to show them the plan, and the plan's got to make sense, and it's got to be consultative.
Yeah, and should they have been given more money? I mean, circling back to the first couple of questions in our conversation, should there have been more in this?
Well, maybe there should be more, and maybe there will be more, because this is the first blush at this.
Yeah.
And we'll see, hopefully, if there is consultation, someone will be able to say to the government, look, there is a certain segment of the people that are out there in the small business community who are not getting any of this money, or aren't getting enough of this money. In other words, there are people whose costs are like 50 grand a week or 50 grand a month. 10,000 won't help them. But there are some people who 10,000 will help a lot. So, as I said earlier, I guess this is not meant to cover everybody at all, in all parts of Sydney or all parts of New South Wales. And those people who haven't a court, we have to find out who they are, and how do we address those individuals? How do we help them out?
Yep. Okay, Mark Bouris, really appreciate your time this morning. Good to have you with us. And you can check out Mark's podcast. He's the host of The Mentor. So that's available for you to listen to if you fancy. Mark, thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.